In the previous lecture, we looked at the opening stanza of In Memory of Jane Fraser. We will continue from there. Hope the video was audible throughout. There is some disturbance in the middle. I hope it is still audible. If there you need any clarifications, please do reach out to me. I will provide you with any necessary notes or clarifications on those parts which are unclear. So moving on to the second stanza, she kept the siege. Jane Fraser is keeping siege against something, against an enemy that we haven't seen yet. And every day we watched her brooding over death like a strong bird above its prey, the room filled with the kettle's breath. So the siege is not a one day event, it is an everyday event. Every day she is keeping at it. And who is bearing witness to this? We watched her brooding over death. We, who are we? This we is suddenly appearing in this form out of nowhere. They haven't appeared till this point. Who are this we? Presumably, it, it is the larger society, but could it be referring to the Christian society? Possibly. And a further possibility is that the poet is implicating us, the readers, into this past action. We, you and I, watched her brooding over death every day. Brooding is a very interesting word to use here as well with the double meaning. Brooding is to philosophically think about something, think deeply about something, something troubling. Usually, brooding is also an image of a mother hen sitting on the eggs to hatch it. So brooding has that both that image of somebody caring for their offsprings, and it also is something. Brooding is also something ominous and something dark about it. Over death, Jane is brooding over death. So death is what is being kept at siege. Is the enemy. That is the enemy. That is what being you know kept so closely brooded over, and Jane is described as being like a strong bird above its prey. She is like, again a use of simile, a strong bird above its prey. This image of a bird of prey having its prey very well within its grasp is also used to describe Jane's approach to death. So what is this death? Whose death is this talking about? Is death in general is she trying to keep death away from something, someone, or is she um, trying to trying to prevent the spread of death from someone? We don't know. It is unclear here. So there is the image of war, siege, and it's the image of the bird of prey and of the brooding hen. All of these images are combined to um, indicate the relationship of Jane Fraser with death. And the room filled with kettle's breath. Uh, Where is the room coming from suddenly? We had a very pastoral kind of image till now. We presume Jane Fraser is in the in this particular room. So the setting is shrunk into this particular room, which is filled with the kettle's breath. Assuming there's a kettle going on, possibly for tea, and kettle's breath is the smoke rising from the fumes rising from it, and breath here is a very interesting use, especially as a rhyme to death. So life and death is set up as this kind of binaries in a very interesting manner. Moving on to the third stanza, the damn curtains glued against the pane sealed time away. So curtains, presumably damp because of the kettle's breath, is gluing the pane and sealing time away. Time, this room becomes a kind of a time capsule where time doesn't come and go. It is just frozen. Everything is frozen here. But her body froze too. Her body froze as if to freeze all and chain creation to a stunned repose. Fraser's body freezes as if to freeze us all. As if means it. It almost indicates kind of malicious intent to freeze us all. It wanted to kill us all or drag us all down to death somehow. But her body froze. She who was bravely fighting death, bravely keeping siege against death, whom we watched keeping siege against death, is frozen as if to freeze us all. Or maybe her resistance to death her body has given way, and now it threatens to freeze us all and chain creation to stunned repose. Not only does will death uh, consume us, it will also ensure that creation is moved into a stunned repose. Creation, the process of creation, the Christian creation, and it's also the process of giving birth. So there is an indication that creation itself comes to a halt because of the freezing of Jane Fraser, stunned, an unexpected defeat, stunned repose, rest, completely unexpected rest, which is again a twisted way of saying death. Creation itself faces death. She died before the world could stir. She's restating it in very clear ways that Jane Fraser is now dead, who was fighting so closely against, so um, ferociously against death. Jane Fraser is now dead before the world could stir. What is he referring to as the world here? The people, before the people could stir. When do people stir? In the morning. So she probably passed away overnight. That before the world could stir, before morning can come, she passed away. There is not much reference of night and day. What is another possibility? Another possibility is that before anybody could do anything, if before anybody could do something, she passed away. Also, the next two lines also explains another possibility for this word stir. In March, which is summer arrives, moving from the snow imagery of the winter imagery. In March, the ice unloosed the brook and water ruffled the sun's hair. The ice is unloosed, ice melts and the brook is unloosed. Brook can flow freely, water can flow freely, and the water ruffles the sun's hair. It's kind of a playful image of rebirth and renewal in spring. It's not summer, in spring, in March, new life, the possibility of a new life. But death still lingers in the lines of Geoffrey Hill. Dead cones upon the alder shook. The cones that are shaking upon the alder is still dead. Alder is a very common tree, which is in the family of birches and usually symbolic of many things, including um, male-female binary, because of it has both cones and catkins. Catkins are male and cones are very specifically female. So cones here indicate femininity, and dead cones, death of that kind of female figure of the poem, Jane Fraser. Alder is usually in Celtic mythology a symbol of rebirth, but here what does Alder have? Alder has a dead cone shaking on it. The possibility of rebirth is also kind of dead. This also should make you think about the larger context of the poem. What is the poet getting at? What is the possibility that he is getting at? There is one interpretation that I can offer. There may be many other interpretations of what this poem is really about, but the interpretation that I have come to because of this particular last line clues me into this interpretation because it's dead cones. It's a female uh, part of the alder which aids in the process of birth, of creation. So dead cones. So there's this kind of an infertility kind of an image, and there is some sort of indication that she is keeping siege of something. Jane Fraser is keeping siege of something. I am thinking of an image of kind of a still birth that we are witnessing. The mother gives birth to a dead child, or a mother losing a child to death, and in turn dying herself in her attempt to fight this death off. So this is one interpretation that I have to offer, and many indicators are there. The cold shroud of and the brooding image of Jane Fraser, and the contrast between death and breath, and the way her body freezes over, and creation itself comes to a stunned repose. The process of birth itself comes to a stunned repose, and finally, towards the end of the poem, that image of the dead cones, uh, cones of alder, the symbol of rebirth itself is dead. So that possibility of birth itself is completely um, erased. So there is a sense of infertility or sterility that runs through this poem. I hope you understood. If there are any questions or clarifications you need, please contact me. So that is the end of the lecture for the poem in memory of Jane Fraser.